Now, normally I don't really care about formats, or rather, I just really don't have any suggestions to improve them for the most part. And largely, they don't affect me, right? Like, I'm not a player, so why would I put, the thought process or the power into deciding what format is superior, especially when I probably don't have any say in that regard, anyways. But, I guess they do kind of affect me because the fucking Monday Night League, because some people have a full-time job. So, right, if you're out there, that's my suggestion. Put the Friday into Saturday and Sunday instead so I can cover them. But anyways, that aside, I will say that I think in general, the suggestions, or I guess the implementation of these new format changes, are actually pretty good. I like the whole general theory behind it all. And I will say, as a sidebar, I think that the improvements to Academy as well too were phenomenal, really good. In fact, where it's tier 2 teams. There's now a new category which is called tier 2, and they get to qualify for Academy playoffs essentially, with only 6 slots getting the chance to then get to face the LCS Academy teams. So this allows for, even theoretically, maybe some boomers to end up making their own team, boomer veteran LCS players making their own team and then competing through the tier 2 league to then face Academy teams and just completely wreck Academy players. I think that would actually be very entertaining. Now, maybe there is some nuanced rules into that, and maybe Riot does have some rules in the background that says that you can't compete in tier 2 if you have LCS experience or whatever the fuck. I don't know, but I still think it's cool that amateur players kind of get a chance to show their face within the academy and then possibly get picked up. So this is kind of a better version, I think, of scouting grounds, because scouting grounds is very limited. You also don't really get to pick your team that you're playing with, right? In terms of team fucking Dragon Ocean or Ocean Drake or whatever, or Team Infernal Drake, or all that shit, and how they put all the scouting grounds teams together for you to compete and show off your skills. So I think that's super sick. I still would have liked them to address something about the veterans and everything within the academy system, and I actually made a video of that. You can go check out on my channel about how at least I would solve the veteran kind of stagnation within NA Academy and them taking up slots within Academy. But anyways, so enough about Academy, because no one watches that shit anyways. Let's talk about the actual spring and summer split of the LCS, which is basically just kind of one split now, but really not, because there is also, you could win a championship too, which is kind of cool that they kept that, but more on that later. I think the whole idea of spring and summer is that they reward two different things, and that's very big different distinctions for how a team can operate in terms of what their primary skills or their primary strengths are. One is that it rewards innovation, and then the other rewards consistency, right? Like, you can already tell that spring is obviously innovation because it starts near the preseason, and then summer is when everything tapers off, the meta becomes pretty solid, and you kind of ride that out, and people have figured out maybe all of your little gimmicks and whatnot, so they're more prepared to face you in that sense. So that's when the more consistent teams start to pick it up, and maybe more of the veteran players or whatnot, and the teams that have kind of stuck together for quite a bit. So I think these two different things combined into one, essentially, especially with considering that if you win spring split, then it gives you points, or it leads into the system of the summer split, right? Because I think it's all your wins count, and then they kind of tally it up towards the end, right? So theoretically, like Cloud9 obviously would have been able to get into summer split playoffs and get high seeded and whatnot. So this is really a great system. I think it rewards both styles and both, teams of team strengths and whatnot. Now, spring split was always used, I think, as an experimental split, right? Whereas summer split patches tended to be less volatile, and that's where you get this difference of innovation versus consistency. And this has been known throughout playing the game of Riot anyway. Like, even the average fan can tell you that, yeah, towards the later parts of the year, the meta usually gets more stable and they stop changing too many things because they realize that it ends up fucking up with their world championship later on. So they have to make the game a little bit more consistent. And also, this is even in tune with players as they're trying to grind up through the ranks of solo queue, right? They want to get higher in solo queue, and they don't want the game to change drastically to where now it's like, oh, well, all my hard work is for naught, and now the game completely changed and I'm going to fall down the ladder. And also, the skills that I gained earlier in the year don't fucking matter anymore. So it works both ways in that sense, and I actually like what they're doing with LCS, and I think this might allude to maybe a worldwide philosophy of what they're going to do for other leagues if this ends up working out in terms of viewership, keeping up and whatnot, is that, yeah, this could actually change and help Riot's balancing philosophy be a little bit more universal and help out all of their leagues and their professional players and whatnot, and sync in tune with the solo queue ladder. So I think this is actually more than meets the eye when you actually consider this tournament format. Now, they did mention that they're going to have this beginning kind of preseason-ish tournament, and I think it's cool in general because it's a pure prize-based tournament. But I think what would have been even better is to allow fans to pitch into the prize pool, right? Because previously it was, okay, well, we don't want to have MSI have a prize pool. We don't want to have Worlds have a prize pool. And then they started to allow fans to pitch into that, right? And it made the tournament a little bit higher stakes, but they also wanted to attach the prestigiousness to, both MSI and Worlds, right? And it wasn't just about prize money. But at the same time, right now, it's 150K for, winner take all. And while that's nice, you got to wonder how serious these teams will take this tournament and if they're willing to reveal any of their big strats, right? For the new season, to where their wins actually matter during that time, and maybe they could get bigger rewards, right? Because they're actually winning splits, they're going to Worlds, and that gets them into an even more prestigious tournament, especially given that spring split leads into MSI, and then of course the summer, or I guess the spring and summer points, leads into Worlds, right? So all of that matters way more. And why would you sacrifice, if you do have a big strategy or, your golden egg, I guess, then why would you reveal that in a 150K tournament where, you guys aren't really going to be making that much anyways, at least in the grand scheme of things, right? Because that's split between 5 ways, or, I guess, like, call it quasi 7 ways, because you have to include the coaching staff and whatnot. But you have to wonder exactly if it's going to make all of the teams try 100%, because as much as I like to think that they would, I think that's a little bit of a fairy tale in that essence if someone has something juicy lined up for strategy. So overall, I do like how they kept both splits at least distinct from each other, right? Giving a trophy to be the winners, but also I really like the triple round robin for the summer split. I think that is super dope, because that means we virtually get no fluke teams making it into playoffs, with a decent seed, right? They'll be tested 3 times against every single other team. So this is going to be like the battle tested teams. And it will still mean that most likely the teams that do well in summer are probably going to go into Worlds anyways. But if a spring split team that ends up winning spring split, or was second seed, they can still make it high into the summer playoffs, but it's just going to be more battle tested, right? So you don't get a fluke in that essence. So overall, I like the changes. I think it's a really kind of ingenious idea. It gets the best of almost everything. I don't think it's going to be super overwhelming for viewers, although Fridays, I'm not sure how that's going to work in terms of viewership, especially if it starts earlier in the day. Now, it will be said though that since it's fucking Corona right now, people have all the time in the world to watch shit for the most part. So I think this is kind of something that won't rear its head too much in the very beginning, and Riot just might be able to ride it out as Corona plays out. So I don't think they're taking that much of a risk in terms of the viewership perspective for Friday Night League or whatever, right? So overall, I think this is a great deal. I think also Cloud9 probably got a great deal for this format too. Probably paid more than they paid for perks, but that comes with their sacrifice that they want to go to fucking Worlds. So overall, I think this was a good purchase from Cloud9. I think this is a good job from Riot, and I can't actually wait to see this new tournament, especially the preliminary tournament, and just kind of see how it shapes up, because more league, yeah, fuck it, why not?